Hi everyone, thank you so much for this opportunity to present today, and thank you to my fellow presenters who have certainly set the bar high. Yes, today I'm going to present on a particular aspect of my PhD study, specifically parts of both my chapter 3 and 4 that are still in development. So my PhD investigates the realization of the constitutional water right in South African cities through intelligent water management technologies. But today, the title of my presentation is, of course, towards the fulfillment of the South African constitutional right to water, the adequacy of the law in addressing cities' water service delivery challenges. Yes, so just briefly, for your convenience, this is the outline of my presentation. I'll be speaking to the constitutional water right, water service delivery challenges, zoning in on one specific challenge, namely insufficient data in service delivery. Then I'll look at what does the law say in relation to this challenge, and is it adequate? Then I'll make some recommendations. So let's get right to it. So in South Africa, as we have heard, we are fortunate enough to have a constitutionally entrenched right to water as per section 27(1)(b) of the Constitution. Specifically, this right says that everyone has a right to have access to sufficient water and that the state has to take reasonable and other measures within their available resources to progressively realize this right. Now, water is indispensable to the fulfillment of other rights, such as the right to a healthy environment that's not harmful to one's health or well-being, the right to equality, human dignity, life, and housing. But in terms of section 152(1)(b) of the Constitution, it is an object of local government to ensure the provision of services to communities in a sustainable manner. And as per Schedule 4(b) of the Constitution, water and sanitation provision is a function of local government. Now, okay, we get it. Water service delivery is in the hands of local governments and interchangeably referred to in this presentation as either cities or municipalities. Cities are absolutely essential to the achievement of the constitutional water right, given their water service delivery mandate. Now, the reality is that cities face various challenges in relation to their water service delivery mandate. So in my PhD, let's get to the challenges first. So in terms of water service delivery challenges, there are innumerable, but some of them include the country's ever-increasing water stress, the perpetual socioeconomic disparities of the past, the effects of climate change, such as prolonged droughts and changing weather patterns, widespread and systemic poverty, geographically unequal water availability and demand, as well as growing and urbanizing populations. So the burden of these challenges weigh unimaginably heavy on cities. So in my PhD, I focus specifically on only 4 challenges, namely non-revenue water, illegal water use and connections, and the sustainability of water services. But today, since I have only 15 minutes to present, I will be speaking to only one of these issues, namely the insufficiency or lack of data in cities pertaining to the provision of water services and certain aspects thereto, and whether the law as it stands adequately addresses this challenge within the water law milieu. Great, so cities as highly complex systems with their domains becoming increasingly interconnected and their processes exceedingly dynamic, they progressively require sophisticated data to realize their ability to respond accurately and adequately to the challenges of service delivery, especially in the age of sustainability and urbanization. Data are essential not only for the technological opportunities it presents, such as big data analytics and context-aware computing, but also for the prospect of increased knowledge. So data allows cities to understand where they fail and succeed in terms of service delivery. They help determine where inequalities persist, and for adequate and informed decision-making, data is absolutely integral. These are many of the advantages, although there are a lot more. And as the saying goes, what gets measured gets managed. Conversely, what does not get measured does not get managed effectively. This is why we need data. Now, here comes the tricky part. Not everything that gets measured has value. Data needs to be of good quality and have integrity in order to be valuable. While there is no universal agreement on the aspects of data quality is absolutely necessary, and it has 6 dimensions, namely completeness, uniqueness, timeliness, validity, accuracy, and consistency. Furthermore, we need data integrity, and this is known as an uncompromising adherence to certain ethical values, the complete avoidance of deception, and strict honesty, as well as the state of being complete and whole or entirely unimpaired. Considering these requirements in the ensuing discussion will be absolutely necessary to determine whether cities have sufficient data regarding their water supply and services. So, what kind of data do cities need? Well, the availability of data concerning water supply and use in the country is absolutely prudent, firstly. And in terms of water provision, we need access to data on issues such as non-revenue water, including the physical, commercial, and authorized use aspects thereof, as well as on water losses. We need data on resource availability, water use, supply and demand, the status of water infrastructure, and whether they are being maintained or not to ensure sustainable water services. And finally, we need to know who has access to water and at what level of supply. I think this issue has really been highlighted during COVID-19 because we realized we need to provide emergency water provision to so many people. But how many people? Where? How much water? At what level of supply are we able to do this? So data is absolutely essential at this point in time. Now, here's a quote on this PowerPoint slide from the National Water and Sanitation Master Plan. While I'm not going to read it, it really stresses that we need reliable data, and that data needs to be continuously updated. So the master plan also firmly states that inadequate data and information caused by weak monitoring infrastructure and systems pose significant risks to both planning and decision-making in cities, and they should be addressed with great urgency. Okay, well, what does the law say? Now, what does the law say, and what do they require of cities in this regard? Now, during formulating each of the challenges I am tackling in my PhD, I have analyzed about 20 law, policy, and strategy instruments to determine the various duties on cities in relation to each. Due to the brevity of this presentation, I will only show you an analysis of 7 laws instrumental to water services regulation, but I will only elaborate on the duties directly relevant to provided for actually in terms of the Water Services Act, which of course is the principal act governing water services in the country. Okay, so while most of these laws you can see here on the screen, actually they do provide duties regarding the provision of information or data by cities pertaining to the aspects of water service delivery, but the Water Services Act states that one of the main objectives of the Act is that, well, this is the one we will briefly investigate, is to establish a national information system that aims to gather data and information on water services and will assist in distributing this information, for instance, to cities for their use. The purpose of the National Information System is to record and provide data for the monitoring, implementation, and development of national policy on water services. You can therefore assume that this is a pretty significant duty, right? Now, the minister is required by the Water Services Act to establish this National Information System, but the public must have access to thereto. Now, very important in this regard is the minister may require any province or water services institution, which of course includes water services authorities, also known as municipalities, to furnish information for this system. So there is a duty on cities to provide information to this national system. The question is just, are they being asked to provide this data or not? Okay. So the minister can also ask this from consumers, so they can also be asked to furnish information. But yes, so cities are required to provide data. Now, the implementation of this specific duty in terms of the Water Services Act occurred by the Department of Water and Sanitation, firstly initiating the development of the National Integrated Water Information System, also called NIVIS. The NIVIS provides information via dashboards to facilitate efficient reporting and analysis throughout the country's water value chain. The Water Services section on the NIVIS provides dashboards for access to water, water supply reliability, non-revenue water, water services development plans, and water services products. Now we have another system, which is called the National Water Services Knowledge System, or the NWSKS. Now, very often information is sourced from this system to NIVIS, so they need to be aligned and in conjunction, but as I will say later, they're not always aligned as they should be. Now, this NWSKS hosts national, provincial, and local level information concerning a variety of themes, such as the demography, access to basic services based on access to water infrastructure, water services programs, water quality management, and so much more. So upon investigation of both these systems or databases, one may glean that they are problematic and may have numerous flaws. For instance, the data on NIVIS is not continuously updated at all as required by the master plan. Rather, it is only updated once a year. Hence, the data is outdated. For instance, the Water Supply Reliability Dashboard aims to provide data on the functional access to basic water supply infrastructure, which is absolutely essential, but it is only updated once a year in April. So since the data is updated yearly and a continuous monitoring system is in place, it is conceded that it does not provide an accurate depiction of the state of functional water supply in the country. The dashboard does indicate that NIVIS may, at any time, request updated information, but this information is nonetheless not made immediately publicly available. Now, furthermore, the database only stipulates that the data is mainly sourced from national means, such as Statistics South Africa, censuses, and general household surveys. And absolutely no mention is made of how exactly the information from cities are used, and if they are at all required to provide any information. This is made evident by the database's inconsistent use of information regarding specifically the non-revenue water of cities. Now, upon using the NWSKS at random to provide data at a local level on, for instance, the city of Matlusana in the Northwest province, the information provided on the themes were immensely inconsistent regarding specifically the date on which the data or information were recorded. In this instance, the only data provided from the current year, 2020, are that on data water quality management in the Matlusana municipality. However, themes such as water board related information and water demand management date back as far as 2014 or 2011 and 2012 respectively. So the data is inconsistent, inaccurate, and lacks timeliness. The NWSKS acknowledges using the Department of Water Services estimates for providing the data concerning non-revenue water. Yet, at no point do they provide the source of this data and the accuracy of these estimates, and thus the integrity of the entire database is absolutely questionable. Furthermore, and probably the most concerning to me, is that on the database, there is a warning that there is absolutely no express or implied warranty as to the accuracy, completeness, or suitability of the data. Take into account that this is a national legislative duty that has been implemented in this regard. Okay, so this brings us to the difficult and often complex question: is the law adequate in this regard? Now, while I'm sure you will agree with me that there are many ways adequacy may be measured, and while it is quite a contentious term, there is one very direct way of determining the answer. Does the law make provision for the issue or the challenge at hand? And if so, does it do so sufficiently? Now, without opening a can of worms, I can say the following about the specific duties prescribed by the Water Services Act regarding specifically addressing the lack of cities' data by mandating the establishment of a national system of information. So firstly, while the National Information System has many benefits and it may aid cities in their decision-making, cities really do not form a central part of this process at all. Instead, they may or may not be requested to provide information, which means that cities may be reluctant in making any effort to collect, analyze, and distribute the data or information that they desperately need for decision-making and planning. Now, furthermore, the national information systems are not up to standard in that they do not guarantee the quality of the data provided. Without this assurance, the information may be interesting, but in practice, meaningless. The Water Services Act does not make adequate provision for the setting of guidelines and standards as for the information collected. Thus, the data obtained and processed may lack both quality and integrity. And again, while it may be a beautiful show horse, it cannot compete in the race. Now, I would finally like to conclude by making some recommendations. In my view, the law should be developed so that cities play their part in the collection and analysis and distribution of data concerning water services provision, particularly since not doing so could adversely affect their planning and decision-making by the city. This will assist in alleviating the fragmented approach and distribution of data and will probably contribute to the accuracy and usefulness thereof, particularly when it is added to these national systems. Now, one way of doing this is creating guidelines and standards and developing these so that they may set certain requirements, such as having to meet every element of data quality or data integrity, and that cities should see to these requirements. Furthermore, I suggest that capacity and skills building should take place within cities to ensure in-house talent are available who are able to see to the proper collection, analysis, and use of data. Finally, of course, I would encourage cities to adopt technologies that allow for improved collection of data. And while I cannot dwell there on it this time, that is another very interesting topic. But thank you for listening to my presentation today, and I look forward to any questions.